This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, different niches, just people doing really cool things in their space, and find out a bit about their journey and what they're doing, and see if some of those things might translate into our own lives as well. And so we've talked to lots of athletes, entrepreneurs, we've talked to scientists, we've talked to an astronaut as well. So lots of really cool people. And today we're going to have one of those as well. Just before we get into that, if you've been listening to the podcast for a little while, you know that we have a relationship and a sponsorship from Thirdzy, and Thirdzy creates natural products that help athletes like the one we're going to talk to today, and high performers get good quality rest and recovery from physical and mental stress. And their PM Recovery Collagen is melatonin free, it's sedative free, and so it helps you get your best quality rest while supporting joint and muscle repair as well. So you could take a look into our profile and inside our Instagram profile and online. You can click through to that, see if it's something that you're interested in. There's a discount code there, and definitely check it out and see if it's something that you might be interested in. So today, really excited to have Hattie Kanyo with us today. She's a competitive CrossFit athlete and now 2024 CrossFit Games qualifier just very recently. So we'll talk about that. She's an exercise science grad, a fitness coach. She travels a lot, health and wellness podcaster now as well. And she also, at the end of last year, won the ElFit Championship in Egypt as well at the end of 2023. So some really big things happening, but maybe we'll start just congrats, first of all, on your fourth place finish in the North American West semifinal. I know you've been working a long time and we're really close, before this time to be able to get to the games. And just how does it feel being able to finally kind of punch a ticket to go to that?
Oh yeah, thank you so much. And it still feels like a dream.
Yeah.
I'm letting it set in over these couple days, like just letting whatever emotion comes to me or come to me. Yeah, like I thought that on the last event that I would just, or when they called my name, I would just start bawling because I usually cry no matter what. Like I'm ready to cry right now, let alone
Yeah.
on the floor. But I think I was just a little bit in shock. And also, I was a little bit disappointed in myself for that last event. But like, it's just a weird feeling for how confident and how proud I was of the whole weekend. For it to just change that quick on that last event was it's just a wild feeling. But yeah, I'm just letting all the emotions kind of flood in and just
Yeah.
do whatever happens. Like even yesterday, we were listening to a song in the car and I just start bawling and my two friends were like, "What?" And I was like, it set in, like it hit me. It just hit me that I made it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say you were disappointed after the final event, and a lot of that is, I'm sure, because your events were all so, like for a lot of time you were talking about you were the only athlete that was in the top 10 for all of those events, and there was a lot of real heavy success. Um, but the overall success is that you're going, and it's interesting that you said like you felt disappointment instead of the what you'd think would be the elation of being able to go. And I know that fourth just means you just slipped off the podium, but really, like, you've met your goal of going, right?
For sure. And like obviously I'm so proud and I'm so happy as well. It was just like such a crazy, I think it was just because I knew someone had told me, hey, like you've clenched your spot, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So just enjoy this. And I think for me, it was more, I don't know, maybe it was subconsciously, it just kind of hit me, hey, you've made it. So it's all good. Like you don't need to press on the gas anymore.
yeah,
And which is, I'm glad that I experienced that now. So now I know what that feels like because now at the games, I can know to maybe push a little bit harder, right? Because
yeah,
I do think it was subconscious because I did go in being like, oh, I could get a top 10 on this workout. Like ring muscle ups are my thing. The bike's not too bad. Obviously, the lunges were tough, but I was confident that I could get a top 10 in that. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. It was such a weird feeling, but I'm
yeah.
still really proud of my efforts and I'm so happy, obviously, to have punched my ticket.
Yeah. Well, and so we're saying that, you were very close last year, I know, and you've been doing CrossFit for a while. What do you think made the difference this year? Like, what kind of got you over that hump, you think, this year than maybe previous years? Is there something that stands out as, okay, I'm just way better at this than I was before, or is it just progressive, I guess?
I think a lot of it is mindset. And then like last year, I was really burnt out physically and mentally, but like
Hmm.
I went in to last year knowing that I was going to push it a lot harder, more volume, more pushing. And I even like picked up my life and moved to go work out with or train with another games athlete,
Hmm.
which was the best experience ever. I'm not, saying that it wasn't the right choice because I do think it was the right choice to understand what kind of athlete I am. You never know until you push the limits. And for me, I know that I need a little bit less. Like I need to be mentally clear. And I think just I am such a competitive person that when we were training, we both are. So we would both go into the gym and we're like, hey, today maybe we should take it a little bit more chill. And then 3, 2, 1,
You would, yeah.
go. No, you don't, right? You're automatically competing with that other person. So I think for that, I just needed to kind of like bring it back a little bit. And like I love being out in nature
Hmm.
and home. There's a lot more nature than in Houston, this big city. So I
Yeah.
was just a hermit in Houston last year. I mean, that was all on me. I probably could have gone on more walks or done whatever, but I would go to the gym and then I would go home and I would be a little hermit. And again, it was just me learning and understanding what kind of athlete I am, what I need. And so this year I've been implementing a lot more of what I know that I need.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, in in this next, well, in what happened this weekend, and then next weekend as well. For those people that don't know, they kind of split west and east for North America, and there was a strong Canadian contingent in your grouping, that's there, both male and female, and you see going into kind of the next one, same thing on the east side of the country or the continent. Um, what do you think it means? Like, why are so many Canadians, why do they excel at CrossFit? Like, is it because of there's that many gyms? Is it because of certain things? There just always seems to, and especially now, seems to be even kind of younger kind of Canadians that are excelling very quickly in that sport as well.
Yeah, I've never really thought of that. I mean, I know for me and for a couple of the other Canadians, like I grew up in a small town and that's all we did was sports. Like that's all I
Yeah.
knew, right? So I think that's kind of like hometown, small town. That's a lot here. I mean, it could be in the States too. I don't know, but
Hmm.
I mean, that could be a factor for sure. And we're just like grown up playing sports and, running around or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think that could be a factor for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Also, the
I,
maple syrup,
yeah,
obviously.
that's it. Yeah. Yeah. That's obviously a big part of it. And so, the other side is you personally found CrossFit, I think even after school or during kind of, college, but tell us a bit about how that worked, because it sounds like, you were probably always relatively athletic, and going into the program you went into and things like that. How did you get your way into CrossFit?
Yeah, like I said, I played sports growing up, all the sports you could think of. And then right out of high school, I was going to play rugby. I signed on for a scholarship here in Lethbridge, but I
Hmm.
just didn't know what I wanted to do in school, so I ended up just turning it down. And then I like to tell people I became a little bit of a shyster, like just a yeah, not I don't know. I partied too much,
Yep.
okay? It was just I don't know. I mean, I don't regret it at all. It's just I was going down a really bad path, like with drugs, with alcohol, really bad eating disorder, and eventually my brother, he is like one of the fittest people I know, and he showed me fitness, and so I started going to the gym, and that kind of sparked my interest in becoming a personal trainer. So that's when I went to school. I played soccer, cross country running in high school or in college. And then my professor, actually, he's the one that was like, hey, you need to do CrossFit. You've got the body type, you're athletic. I think you do really well. And I kind of looked it up and then I told him, nah, people get hurt in CrossFit, like the total
Hmm.
stereotypical whatever. So 3 years went by and finally I was like, okay, I'm going to try it. And instantly I became, hooked, and I started doing 2 a days right away. And I started competing right away. Obviously, the sights of the games was like, that would be really cool, but confidence really lacked.
Yeah.
I lacked in confidence until I'd probably say this year was like the year that I actually felt confident in myself
Hmm.
fully. So yeah, that's kind of just a little snippet of how I got into it.
Yeah, yeah, and knowing kind of and maybe not everybody knows kind of some of your background, but obviously you, especially I guess maybe this year is looking at kind of that whole life piece where you talked a little bit about you need to be able to go outside, you need to be able to kind of see friends and things like that to be able to excel as an athlete. Um, Tell us a bit about that because I know you must enjoy traveling because you do a lot of showing different experiences traveling and things like that. How does that either make you a better athlete or at least feel kind of more whole because you're able to balance some of those things a little better?
Yeah, like you said, it just makes me feel whole. It makes me feel happy to be around people. It makes me happy to go see other cultures. Makes me happy. I think the biggest thing that makes me happy is being in the mountains. Like anytime I drive right into British Columbia, I'm instantly big smile on my face. You roll down the windows, you're feeling the fresh air. So just knowing those things that make you happy, that might mean to somebody going on a swim, on a walk. It might mean sitting down at their desk and making jewelry or whatever it is. Knowing that for myself, just being aware of that and
Hmm.
knowing that like I said, as soon as I see a mountain my eyes light up, right? So I
Yeah.
just know that about myself. So I just try to get out there as much as possible, and I love people, so that's why I'm a coach. And
Hmm.
I mean, I even asked my coach before this if I could hop into classes here and there because it kind of just it makes me happy, it makes me happy training with the community, with people. And training alone can be pretty tough, and that's what I've done for the last couple of years. So
Yeah.
even in Bali, I train with some people there, but I met a guy, his name's Aaron, and he's actually semifinals athlete in Korea. And
Hmm.
we met and we instantly sparked, and he had left. And then all of a sudden he messaged me and was like, I'm coming to train with you. And that was the coolest experience ever because we both just wanted someone to train with. And it was so fun. And we were in Bali. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just finding a balance and trying to trickle in each of those things that you love and that makes you feel good mentally, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you talked about positive mindset and how that kind of helps you in your training and getting through kind of the resiliency part, I think, through that as well. Um, when you're when you're at an event like the large event you were at this weekend, do you spend a lot of time on mental performance while you're there prior to, are there things you do from that standpoint that's outside of just the physical preparedness for the events?
Yeah, for sure. I've been working on the mindset stuff for years, especially like when I first started going to Bali, I was like, oh, I need to work on myself or whatever, right? And so I started doing different healing modalities. Whether that was, I don't know, it's a lot of woo-woo stuff, but it was like
Yeah.
Reiki and, going to get reflexology or whatever it is. And I was just trying to find what worked for me. And then eventually I actually messaged Emily Rolfe and I asked her what was the biggest step that helped her get to the games. And she said mindset. And she actually gave me the contact to her mindset coach. And I ended up hiring him, and he helped me so much. And, you know, a lot of it is just being aware of your thoughts. It was crazy because over time, um, I was telling myself I thought I was a pretty positive, happy go lucky person.
Yeah.
But after a few weeks of catching my thoughts, I was telling myself some really, really negative, horrible things. And so that was kind of just the start of working on my mindset. And ever since then, you know, before an event, I try to do a little bit of visualization, especially before this event. That was the most visualization I've ever done before a competition. And I feel like that helped a lot. Did a little bit of a pre-game ritual.
Hmm.
I love Disney, so my
Yeah.
best friend and I pretty much dance to Disney before every event, which helped
Wow.
calm the nerves.
Yeah.
Nerves. You know, I love singing, so we just sat there belting our hearts out to Disney and seemed to help, I guess.
Well, I'm sure it put you in a positive. I mean, it's pretty tough to sing Disney and not be in a good positive mindset from it, I would
Right?
assume, right? So, um, how about goal setting? Because that is the other side of it too, is that how do you approach that? Because you also are a coach, so you probably help other people do that as well. And do you have like, are you a write everything down kind of person? Are you somebody that does a bit of that and maybe just kind of runs with some things? How do you approach that yourself?
Yeah, again, it's all about balance for me. I used to, and not stressing myself out. I used to stress myself out being like, I need to be the writing down kind of person.
Yeah,
But the thing is, you don't need to be anything. It's about finding what works for you. And I do love journaling, but I'm not going to stress myself out about not journaling 5 days in a row. You know, if today I feel like I want to journal about my experience, then I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to stress myself out about it. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me is just figuring out what works. And I mean, my whole life I grew up having goals. And when I didn't set them, I was so hard on myself. So
yeah,
again, it's about balance. And obviously, I have this goal of making the games, but I think it turned into having a goal of being happy with where I'm at. And that helped me so much more than looking at this goal because if I didn't make it, then I was going to be so upset with myself. So just
yeah,
knowing how hard I am on myself, I need to step back and be like, okay, what's more important than making the games? It's being happy doing it, right? And so
yeah.
this year I was the most, you know, happy going out there. It's the most cool, calm, and collected I have ever been because I was just so happy and grateful to be out there. So I think that that is what worked for me the most.
Yeah, and you've mentioned a couple of people that have helped bring that forward. You talked about mental performance person and things like that. But do you have specific mentors that have kind of really impacted you? Are there specific people that you just think have that you aspire to? Anything kind of from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I try to take a little bit out from everyone that wants to give me any kind of advice or anything. Like I said, I got a hold of Emily. She really helped me with that. And
Yeah.
I mean, my mindset coach has been huge. He's like a friend to me and he says, message him anytime. So sometimes I do. And he puts me in my place because half the time I don't know, I don't learn, but I always think, oh, he'll fix it for me. But no, he makes me fix it. And that is what has helped me grow.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
then, like I said, my community has just been so amazing and supportive, especially those ones closest to me, like my boyfriend and my best friend. My best friend has taken me on as her nutrition coach as well. And I think that that really helped this year as well. So,
Yeah, yeah. You talk about community, and that is something that's an appealing part of CrossFit for many people, is because it is a pretty tight community from that end. But one of the things that I'm wondering about as well is that I think there's been a good change in strong women, and that's now something that is not just accepted; it's actually very much promoted now, and things like that. First of all, do you see that? Because you've done this for a little while, and I know you're still young, so it's probably not changed as much as for some people. Um, but the other side is there's probably a lot of young girls that they will be watching you for sure at the games, and kind of you being the inspiration to other people. How does that feel, first of all? And do you see that change, that there's maybe more of a promotion of that type of a person?
yeah, for sure. Especially after this weekend, I've like had a lot of messages come out, and it's not just strong girls, it's strong boys, right?
Yeah.
I have 15 nieces and nephews, and a lot of them actually messaged me, and the one, he comes to the CrossFit gym now, and every time I walk in he runs and jumps on me, right? And then my the owner of our gym actually just sent a message, and they had a shirt of their it's called CrossFit Framework, and then they had taped my name underneath, and it was for school, it was for like sports or whatever, right? Like a sports day. So I
Yeah.
mean that that made me feel really happy, really warm inside. So yeah, I think that the inspiration to the kids is huge. And I have seen it over my time because, like I said, I had an eating disorder
Hmm.
as a young kid, and well, not that young, but um, I I thought that that was what I wanted. And then as soon as I started CrossFit, I was like, no, I want to be strong, right? Um, and yeah, I just want to help anyone, whether that's kids or adults, right? With that, and knowing that like being strong is pretty amazing, to know what your body can do. And I'm just grateful that I have two legs that I can walk and I can run and I can do all these cool things, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I will tell you, it's probably that much more inspiring that you're going to touch that many more people because you're going to be on this huge stage. But even the fact that you have that value that it isn't just about the sport, it's about all the other stuff too, about friends and about, surrounding yourself with the right people and looking at things positively. So I will tell you that is that's pretty cool that you're able to inspire a whole new generation of people from that in a very positive way. So um, I guess that's the one thing I do wonder when you go to an event like this and you do see it something like the CrossFit Games, because a lot of you have been through different events together, so you do know some of the other competitors, and obviously you know some of the other Canadian competitors probably just from that when you've talked about them there. What is that like when you have friendships, but then kind of do you turn it off? I mean, you mentioned that when you trained with somebody, you do have a competitive piece where it's just I'm just competing. Is it that way, like at the events? Like, can you turn it off and on that way? I ask it because it's funny. I interviewed Tia Toomey once, and she talked about don't judge me on how I am in competition versus how I am outside, because she said I'm an extroverted, very kind of, friendly person outside of that, but the moment I'm there and I'm getting ready I switch into a completely different mode. What's that like for you, and what's your experience like around that with those other people?
Yeah, it can be intimidating for sure. I remember my first competition ever, this one girl, I just looked at her and thought, wow, she seems really mean. And then
Yeah.
when I got to know her, she's actually the nicest person ever. But I'm realizing that people are just in their zone. And I mean, something did happen to me over the weekend where someone had said something to me. I knew that they were trying to kind of get to me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm just so proud of where I've come with my mindset, because I was like, nope, I know where I am and I know what I need, and what you're going to say is not going to get to me. And I just look at it as everyone's in their own zone, and that person is a really nice person outside of competition.
Yeah.
So I do think that people are in their own zone, and that's okay, right? For me, I'm just like, hey, give me a hug right now. And I'm just going to be, I just don't really have that where I'm going to be a little bit of a biatch, but
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I get it. Some people are in their zone, and that is totally fine. But I'm just more whatever. Maybe if I get to the games, I'll turn into one and I'll be in my zone. But
I'm sure you won't.
I'm just always dancing and singing and playing sports or whatever. Like even in the athlete area, we had some sports equipment. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm dancing, and so that's just kind of who I am. And I think that I'll always be like that. And yeah, I think that that calms me down. So someone having, the resting
Hmm.
face,
Yeah.
that's their way of calming down and getting into their zone. For me, I need to be talking and having fun and whatever else. So
Yeah.
yeah, everyone has their own thing, and I think that that's okay.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. And the last one I'll ask before kind of is nutrition wise. I know it's probably different when you're like in that kind of mode right beforehand and the training leading up to a large event. But are you outside of your very regimented training. Are you how much attention do you pay to nutrition? Like, are you track your macro stuff when you're outside of competition? How does that work for you?
So I don't even track macros in competition.
Hmm.
I've just switched over to that. So I used to track macros. I hated it when I started it, but then I turned to love it and I did see changes for sure. My best friend just started working with CBG about a year ago and they don't track macros. So
Yeah,
she actually was like, hey, if you want to work with me, then let's do it. And it was a really hard transition because I was so used to tracking.
yeah,
But now I love it. I love it so much because, again, it's all about balance for me and it's about feeling just good with what I'm doing and finding that balance. And I can do that without tracking macros. So,
yeah,
and I feel stronger than ever. And again, at the competition, I just felt so recovered. And I know that that's huge with food. It's sleep too. Like I love
hmm,
Thirdzy as well. So I was taking my Thirdzy
yeah,
every night.
yeah.
But yeah, nutrition's huge. And even though she had to force feed me a lot of the times,
Hmm.
I was so grateful to have her there for sure.
Yeah, very cool. Well, so the one thing that how do we do on every episode is we try to leave the audience with something that and I'm sure they've taken away a lot from today already. But we talked a bit about positive mindset, and one of the things when you're in sport or doing something all the time, like because it's so intense, maybe how do you keep a positive mindset? Are there certain things that tips that you'd have to kind of keep that positive mindset and for you a love of sport? So how would you suggest people do that to make sure they don't lose that?
Yeah, I think again, just finding balance and finding what you love and sprinkling that in,
Mhm.
whether that's you're in the like if you're in the office all day, at
Mhm.
least find something that you love that can kind of make it a little bit more interesting or, whatever it is, just try to sprinkle in something that you love because I mean, we only live once. I know as cheesy as that sounds, but we got to enjoy what we're doing and if you don't, then you need to figure something out to make you happy, whether that's like the tiniest thing, right? Yeah.
No, that's cool. And last question, you've traveled a bunch of different places. What's your favorite place so far?
That's a hard one. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Bali, we love it because we keep going back there. I really loved Peru as well. So those would probably be my top two.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. So if people are going to, I mean, you're resting a little bit right now, but you'll be right back into kind of your regular training routine and all of that. But what are some of the best ways to follow you and then also see kind of what you're doing when things come to the games?
Yeah, probably just Instagram at Hattie Kanyo. My bestie and I have a podcast too. We haven't been the greatest at it because we've been obviously busy training for semis and obviously the games, but that's on YouTube under my name as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
probably
we'll
about it.
we'll put those both in the show notes because yeah, I've watched your podcast piece and I know there'll be lots of people that'll be interested in seeing that as well. And yeah, we'll have your Instagram profile on there. So if anybody hasn't connected with that yet, just go into your into the profile and it'll be in there as well. If you haven't hit subscribe on the podcast, do that right now because we have great people every week, just like Hattie. And again, we will all be watching to see how things go once you go to the games. But first of all, good luck and have a great time while you're there, regardless of what happens. That's probably a pretty cool experience, especially the first time. So,
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
all right, and everybody else, we will talk again on Big Idea, Big Moves.